Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got a question here about whether or not it's too early to specialize in VR. That's right, virtual reality. I have not actually played much with virtual. I went on a roller coaster though. That I'm not even kidding you. I know that this sounds like I'm joking, but I went on this roller coaster, okay, and I put on these VR goggles. I'm not kidding you, and that was it. When you ride the roller coaster with VR goggles on, it was pretty crazy, pretty insane. And it was not just like a mild, like a little roller coaster. I mean, it had some full loops in there. It was pretty interesting. But I think the technology wasn't quite there yet, but it was a pretty cool experience. It was like riding a roller coaster blindfolded and then dreaming up a bunch of wild ass shit. So before I talk about specializing in VR, I do want to take a moment to thank the sponsor, our current sponsor for Simple Programmer, which is Hire.com. Hire.com is, I don't know how to say it, but I always say that they're awesome because they're awesome. They're just like really good people that are running that company, that are involved with that company, and they really do want to change the job market and change the way that we look for jobs, and I appreciate that. That's awesome because I don't like, if you know me, I don't like the whole approach of sending out resumes and going through stupid HR systems and they scan for keywords and you keyword stuff your blah. So let's forget about that. That's old. That's done. It's tiring. Instead, what you do with Hire.com is you fill out one application and a bunch of companies come and they look for you. They look at and they match up with you, and then they give you offers. They say, hey, why don't you, we'd like to, have you apply for this job. We'd like to interview for this job. And that makes a lot more sense. So here's what you do. Go to simpleprogrammer.com / Let's try that again. How about go to hire.com / simpleprogrammer. And if you use that link, what will happen is if you get a job through hire.com, you will get $2,000 bonus instead of $1,000, which is a pretty good deal. So you might as well check it out. Might as well see. Hey, maybe you'll find it. Maybe you're not even looking for a job, but you just want to check out the process and see what it's like. Go check it out. Go to hire.com / simpleprogrammer and let me know what you think. Anyway, let's move on to the question here. So, too early to specialize in VR. This question is from Chris, and he says, I'm 37 years old, and I want to start an IT career in the next 1 to 2 years, and I wonder if it might be the right time to specialize in VR already. Already, man, it was the right time already. The early bird catches the worm. I just read that Udacity, see how I said Udacity, not Udacity? Thank you for everyone who corrected me on Udacity. Appreciate the thousands of comments about that. Udacity, there we go. And Treehouse gonna launch a VR degree in the beginning of next year. In fact, I think I was just looking at today, I think Udacity has a VR degree, so that's cool. And then he says, though I think VR probably needs a couple more cycles for the devices to become more powerful and cheaper. I agree with that. I'm not so much into web development, at least front end. Can you elaborate what important skills you need for a VR career? So I'm not entirely sure on the skills for VR because I haven't done VR development. I would assume that it's the same skill set for 3D game development. Probably Unity 3D is probably what the VR people I know utilize that, but probably a similar skill set, right? Because you're dealing with, if you're doing 3D game development, it's, third dimensional, doing matrix multiplication, all of that kind of, DirectX and GDI, lib stuff. I don't know, I'm spewing, I'm spewing stuff I don't know what I'm talking about here. But anyway, that's my guess, right? I'm not an expert in VR, but someone who is could definitely chime in the comments below and let you know what you need to know. But let's talk about the specialization aspect of this. So before I get into specialization, I don't want to rehash everything I've ever said about specialization. Instead, you can watch my playlist where I talk about specialization, because I talk about this a lot. This is like one of the cornerstone things that people ask about. So what about specializing in VR? Well, here's the thing. VR isn't new and it's an unproven technology, right? It hasn't gone mainstream yet. So this means that there is a high risk in specializing in it, but there's also high rewards. Now, anytime that you can mitigate the risk of something but still have a very high upside, that's a very good thing. So it doesn't matter whether or not the technology is going to succeed, because if everyone knows that it's going to succeed, that it's become mainstream, it's a little bit too late, right? In fact, it may already be too late. And what I mean by that is that there's already people, I already know at least one guy that is like doing VR games like crazy, just like, I don't know how many he's produced, and he's totally like cornering the market on, I think on Steam, even on VR stuff, which is just mind-blowing. It's insane. So, you know, it's not really too late, right? But what I mean is that there's already people that are first movers that have a huge advantage over everyone else because they're already establishing themselves in that space. Now, I still think there's plenty of opportunity, especially if it grows. So don't get me wrong, I'm just showing you that it might not be too early, right? It may be too late. It may be closer to that truth. Like you may have already missed out on some of the larger part of the gold rush, although I really do think it's going to explode more than that. But even if it doesn't, okay, let's say that you specialize in VR and it doesn't explode. In fact, it becomes a dud. It goes the way of, I guess, you know, 3D glasses with television sets, right? I don't know. I mean, they still sell them with every television set, but who the hell actually puts on who's like, oh, make sure you get your 3D glasses on, Fred, before you watch a movie. Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't even watch TV. I hardly watch movies, but I don't see people doing that anymore. It just doesn't make sense to me. No, I don't think anyone's very excited about that. So it's kind of dead, right? You know, at least in my opinion. I could be wrong about this, but let's say that VR goes that way. Okay, so what's going to happen? Well, the skills that you learn to develop VR application, that specialization, that is going to be transferable. You're just going to have to find out where it transfers or where that technology morphs into. Because what often happens when technologies like these, quote, die, is they don't really die. What ends up happening is they morph into a different form. So what is that final form going to be? I don't know. No one knows, right? That's the key. But, you know, VR has made enough of a stake that it's going to exist in some form, right? It might be a totally different form than what we expect, but we can expect that it's going to transition at some point in the future, if not in the current form that it is now. It's highly unlikely that it will be in the current form. Maybe the HoloLens type of form will be where it is. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be Oculus Rift. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But developing that skill set and specializing in there is going to be a good idea. I don't think that unless you're totally unwilling to change and learn something new, you know, I think that you're going to be safe in doing that because you're going to develop a large skill set for something that, I mean, we're eventually going to move in this direction or something that's like this, and that's going to be valuable to you. So I feel like this is something that you could do, that it's not going to be dangerous for you to do, and it could be there could be very high rewards here, right? This is something, plus you're passionate, you're interested about this, right? You're not interested in doing web development. If you try to specialize in web development and you're not interested in it, it might be a more logical choice, a more safer choice, but because you don't have the passion, you're not going to learn as fast, you're not going to devote as much time and effort into it. Whereas maybe if you're doing VR, if you're really psyched up about this shit, you're going to go home and you're going to be like reading VR stuff and making VR games and doing stuff all the time in the VR space, and you're going to increase your knowledge and your ability at a much more rapid clip. So that's something to consider as well. Not that you should just blindly follow your passion and only do things you're passionate about, but if you are passionate about something, that's a bonus, because that's going to make it less likely that you're going to lose motivation. It's going to make it more likely that you're going to get stuff done and that you're going to have success there. So I honestly would say go ahead and specialize in VR. Just be aware, be ready to jump the ship if you need to, and to transfer those skills to somewhere else. There's always somewhere else to transfer those skills. You know, that's the thing about technology. And you know, you got to take some of these risks. If you don't take any risks in life, you're not going to have any rewards. So go for it. You know, what's the worst that could happen? It's not going to be that bad. If you're getting into tech and you're learning programming and you can do VR programming, you're going to be able to apply that to somewhere else. But having that specialty could be really good for you, right? You could really do well in your career by picking a specialty. I always say pick a specialty, pick a niche, and so I think you're doing it here. I wouldn't wait too long, you know. And here's the other thing I'll say about this. Is VR isn't that big of a risk. I mean, look at how many companies are investing heavily in it, right? From Facebook and you know, a lot of different companies. You know, Microsoft I just forgot the name of the hypervisor, HoloLens. That's what it is, and a lot of other companies. So I think that the risk is mitigated by that as well. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. If you have a question for me, you can always email me at john@simpleprogrammer.com. And don't forget to check out hire.com/simpleprogrammer. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, if you'd like to get more videos about technology, about software development, about the future, where I take a crystal ball, click the subscribe button below. I have about 2 to 3 videos for you a day. You don't have to watch them all, but you can watch the ones you like. Anyway, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.